Welcome to this episode of the Extra Pro Life Show. This one, a clinic review, where we look at the reviews of clinics across North America for the purpose of seeing what having an abortion is actually like. I'm Ben Matichuk, NCLN's Alberta coordinator, and joining me is Executive Director Ruth Shaw. And the way in which women are sometimes treated when having abortions is critically damaging to the notion that abortion is empowering, because abortion doesn't only dehumanize the fetus it's killing, but it dehumanizes the women on whom they're performed as well. So this is something we will expose, that abortion kills a fetus and is consistently harmful to women. So with that, welcome to our first clinic review. Let's dive in. Today we're looking at reviews for the Cabbagetown Women's Clinic in Toronto. Now, I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. Ruth is actually in Ottawa, Ontario. So given your proximity to the clinic, have you heard things about it just going in?
Yeah, so, Cabbagetown Clinic is, about 5 hours away in Toronto, in downtown Toronto. But it is, in the pro-life movement, sort of a clinic that has been talked about a lot, as you have many national organizations with head offices in Toronto. It's a place where many pro-life advocates do outreach because the Cabbagetown Clinic performs many abortions. And specifically 8 women who we've had on the show before, Director Mary Helen Mose, they actually share a wall with the Cabbagetown Clinic. And, Mary Helen had told us about, many, stories that she's encountered herself, or incidents that she's encountered herself, situations outside the clinic. So yeah, it has a reputation that unfortunately precedes itself.
And we want to obviously show that in the comments. Like we're not just going to look at just negative comments or just positive comments. We of course think that all the comments are negative because they're comments that pertain to abortion, and either way a fetus is getting killed. But it's even worse if the woman gets injured as well, and that's kind of some of the 1-star reviews.
Right. I think it's important for people to know that we're obviously a pro-life organization, right? So even if someone has, let's say, a more level or, treated with some kind of respect at an abortion clinic, we would maintain that all abortion clinics are dehumanizing to women and to their children. It just so happens that in Canada, it's underreported the degree to which some clinics are more dehumanizing to women than others. And that's what we hope to talk about on these review shows, right? That we want to talk about what women are actually experiencing, let people know what these clinics are actually like. If a pro-choice person is watching, we want them to know what this is actually like for women who go and have these, these experiences at abortion clinics. So Ben, where are we pulling the reviews from?
These are coming from Google. That's mostly where they are. And of course, we don't relish this experience. It's like, I'm certainly not going to enjoy, let's say we read a comment and it's like, oh, I was horribly injured. It's like, oh, good. That advances our agenda that abortion is a horrible thing. Well, no, we're super sad that these things occur because it kills somebody and it possibly injures somebody else. And so we don't relish this, but how are we really gonna give abortion the dent that we want to give it if we don't look at what it actually is, So.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't relish the idea of having to expose and read these things that women have said. They're likely going to be difficult to hear, but we do relish the fact that hopefully by giving this information to more people, it will put people's question marks in people's heads about what having an abortion in Canada is actually like.
Yeah.
In one of the major cities,
Yep. So with that, we will get right into it.
Okay.
So like I said, we're going to be switching between 5-star, 1-star, that kind of thing. And so the first one is actually this one at the top from this person named Izzy S. Everyone in this place was so nice, really made us feel comfortable, and even helped us with parking. We got an appointment right after we called them, same day. There was very minimal waiting, and would definitely recommend this place, especially for first timers. So obviously this doesn't go much into the process. They obviously did what they could to help them, and then they went in and had an abortion. So
yeah, I find it interesting, just the last word there on the emphasis on first timers. So a lot of people in Canada probably don't know that many people in Canada have repeat abortions, right? And so I guess the Cabbagetown Clinic makes people doing it for the first time feel comfortable somehow. So yeah, interesting.
Well, and I guess it also touches on what we're going to see. Like, there are some comments in here where people touch on, like, I've done this before, like, or this is not this is my second one or whatever. And so that's obviously going to be very sobering. And it's like, it's bad both ways. Like, if you're a first timer, then obviously you're going to be more fragile to the procedure. But then if you've done it again, and like, I mean, I don't think we need to explain how that is.
Yeah, there's sort of a numbing, right, that goes on doing it more than once, for sure. Though the effect, obviously, devastating every time.
Yeah, and this next one that we're going into is from someone named Kenia, and so this is a 1-star review. They level it pretty hard, so not even a 1, 0, less than 0. This place should not exist. Complete horror movie. Do not go there. Completely unprofessional, from doctor calling you mom to nothing being given to you as an IV or anything to open cervix. Nurses in street clothes instead of scrubs. They are way better and safer. There are way better and safer places to go, ladies.
Wow. And that was only a year ago.
Yeah.
Wow. That's horrible. I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I mean, what stands out to you first?
Well, like you said, a year ago, and of course we see below, right? We see the response from the owner, and we see a few of these throughout the comments that they respond and say, "Hey, we're under different management." But it's like that doesn't erase sort of. It's like, oh, it's going to be somebody different, and it's like, oh, good, so they're going to be better at killing the fetuses, but not just that. It's like this is what they get away with. And I'm not going to just sweepingly look at all the different clinics and be like, oh, they're all like this, because I don't know.
We don't know. Yeah.
I suspect that that's the case, but we haven't looked at that. But if you're talking about, well, I mean, the doctor calling you mom, like, that's just strange. But then if you're not being given an IV and anything to open the cervix, like, how is the abortion even performed?
Well, no, so it sounds like they're saying they're not being given pain medication when the cervix is being opened, which any woman knows, having your cervix opened artificially is extremely painful. So obviously the cervix is being opened, but you would expect when you're going to have an abortion, basically many procedures that, like, let's say you're giving birth, which in an abortion, let's be clear, you do give birth, but to a dead child. You still have to, there's some situations where pregnant women have to have their cervixes opened artificially during labor because it's not dilating quickly enough. Right. But you're given, drugs and lots of things to help, kind of make that process a little bit easier. So just, it really brings into question even, conversations that people have been having, pro-life people have been having in the States about, fetus is not being, there's no pain medication used in some abortions in the States. This whole thing is just appalling. There have been lots of comments about the doctor who used to perform abortions. Mary Helen Mose on one of our previous shows talked about the doctor who used to perform abortions there being, just horrible towards women,
like shaky hand and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so, again, you just see such a dehumanization. There's no other way to say it, right? So disrespectful. What kind of procedure, it just, there's no words.
Well, it's crazy how even in Canada, abortion gets the funding that it does. But then you look at a comment like this, and we look at the stuff that we already know because of the episode that we had with Mary Helen Mose and Gabrielle Johnson. And what we know is that not even are they getting the funding, but they are under way less regulation than like a hospital, because it's like, would you see any kind of surgeon whose hands were shaky? Or
and then what's the complaint process for this when it does happen? And it just allows for more women and more women to be dehumanized. And it's a great point, Ben, that we pay for abortions to happen with our tax dollars.
Yep.
So people need to know this is what your tax dollars are going to. Complete mismanagement and complete dehumanization of women and children.
Yeah, good clarification. I saw the anything to open the cervix. I was totally tripped up by the phraseology, and I was like, what the heck? What did they do? So
Yeah.
thankfully that was the result
You know,
of that.
that's
I
all
think is
right.
less horrific than
Yeah,
could have
you
been.
haven't given birth, so it's okay.
Well, that's kind of assuming my gender a little bit, but we'll let it slide. Our next comment, I'm just looking for here. Oh, it comes from Elijah Augustus. So 5 stars. Very good service. Got aborted quick. Oh, okay. I never knew
Wow.
that the process was so efficient. Wow, 5 stars. Okay. Okay. That's a bit of a, wow, that's quite casual way to look at it. That's a bit of a tough comment to read.
Yeah, is that what makes a good abortion? You get in, get out as fast as possible. That's just
Oh, that's
so,
so
the language
dehumanizing.
is
Oh my
so,
goodness.
yeah.
Okay. So,
Is that, yeah, just kill them quicker. Like
yeah.
it's very, yeah, it's just so cavalier, right? And, obviously we don't know the age of this person, but we do know that in Canada, because we have abortion on demand and no restrictions, that what else do people expect will happen other than people treating abortion with, just so much, so cavalierly and so lightly.
Yeah, huge like desensitization, and
Yeah.
it just shows you, that it's not just that it's not just that abortion is legal, it's that we're paying for it, and it's not just like, so on that level, and then it's not just that abortion is legal, it's that it's normalized. Like, these are all horrible things, and it all starts with the fact that you really can't give abortion anything. Like, and of course that's our
No.
position across the board. Like, I obviously think that abortion should be totally illegal everywhere in the world,
Yeah.
and as an organization, we obviously think that. It's not like we believe in the privatization of that industry or anything. Like, we believe it should be totally nixed. It just shows that you give abortion anything, you give it an inch, and it'll go the whole way up to the point where I'm paying for it
Absolutely.
with my tax dollars, or when somebody posts a comment like this and says, hey, I got aborted quick, that's so awesome.
Yep. Yeah. What else do people expect? And especially in a country where there's, we're making our best efforts, but we've got to do more, and more people have to get active if they actually want to see abortion come to an end. And if we don't start acting like abortion is a disease and a sickness, not so dissimilarly to COVID-19,
Yeah.
where we actually treat it as a problem, then what else do people expect except that we're going to see young people or people like this who are just, celebrating the fact that the process was so efficient and 5 out of 5 because I got to kill my child faster. It's just, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. And with that, we'll move on to this next one. Do not go here. 1 star. Do not trust these doctors with a matter so delicate. The doctors who did the procedure were completely unprofessional, incredibly disrespectful to me as a patient, and their negligent work left me with near life-threatening complications. The fact that this clinic has been present for a long time has no bearing on their professionalism or results. A nightmare. Do not go here. They do not deserve even 1 star.
Wow. So again, it goes back to what you're saying earlier of if you were having an abortion at a hospital or any other procedure, there would be some kind of reporting mechanism to discuss something as horrible as this, or a lawsuit or something. But I would not be shocked if there are a lot of women who have gone through this type of situation, come out with near life-threatening complications, but don't do anything about it out of fear of ever saying anything bad about an abortion clinic, because they have to, they're justifying their own choice, or they're pro-choice, and so they don't want to say anything too public about it. But we need to see some lawsuits against these clinics. I mean, it's just horrific.
Yeah, I guess the issue there is, like, you have to imagine the attention that it would get, not from the mainstream media. The mainstream media would try to cover it up, but from other sort of media sources. And then, of course, because of the cultural attention it would get, I'm sure that, I don't want to assume, but our current prime minister, of course, is not really earning the benefit of the doubt in that regard, that he would not try to cover it up, because we know that he's sympathetic to this, and we know that he will cover things up if he thinks that is a good decision to make.
Well, and we have to shine a spotlight on what's actually happening with the information that we can get, right? So that, hopefully over time, as we shine a spotlight so bright on the dark pit holes that these clinics are that will be able to deter people from actually going to have one, seeking out actually, helpful things to solve crises, not have their children killed in such a horrific and awful environment.
Yeah. And with that, we'll move on to this comment from Victoria Lynn. In the beginning, 5 stars, I was having difficulty searching for urgent assistance and care. I had called several places that had awfully long or disorganized wait lists, so I had considered Cabbage Town Women's Clinic. The entire process went fantastic with the help and support from brilliant staff and caregivers. Very informative, observant and kind. Security is lovely, the environment is comfortable, and the atmosphere of this place is warm. And it just makes the desensitization further, right? It's like, so, the atmosphere was warm for what? The information and being observant and kind was for what?
And also just such an emotional disassociative, like, I don't know how to say that word, but where you emotionally disconnect from whatever's actually happening, right? And that's, such a common mental health thing for people to do when they go through significant trauma, which I would argue abortion is a significant trauma, 100%. Whether you kind of readily recognize that or not. And I would actually say that a lot of the issues that we're facing right now in Canada could be partially as a result of the fact that there are so many people like this person who have sort of disassociated from what exactly happened and have not dealt with that trauma, yet you do live out of that trauma throughout the course of your life. Many post-abortive women have spoken to that. So, even though, things sound okay in terms of her treatment, we should not be kind of fooled by that the process can never be great because it's an abortion.
Yeah. And, and it's not as if how you would respond, like how you would, I guess, react to an abortion or respond to it after the fact. It's not reliant on what your opinion on abortion is. Abortion is going to be traumatic across the board.
And that's the shift that we've seen in the abortion rights movement, actually, more and more that's been coming out. It's no longer safe, legal, rare, necessary. It's abortion on demand. And even recently we shared an article on our Facebook page where someone had entitled it, I effing love abortion. And there was just, that kind of mask that was hanging over the abortion rights movement as though they just wanted it to be safe, legal, and rare. No, it's on demand and no matter what.
Oh, and even safe, legal, and rare, like we wouldn't be okay with that either. But again, it just shows that once these things, and euthanasia falls under the same category. Once these things take place, they can never exist in moderation. The very nature of them calls for them to have domination. And I say that like it's just how it works. And I say that because that's what we've seen. If there's a place where we haven't seen that, then we obviously want to draw attention to that so that we can learn from it. But so far, that's what we've seen. And so with that, there's this 1-star comment from this person named Mackenzie C. If there was an option for no stars, I would choose that. My whole experience was very bad. There is a stinky smell in the clinic. The receptionist and the counselor are both not professional at all. They seem to lack proper training. Specifically, the counselor who kept trying to hurry me with my decision rather than counsel me in a proper manner. The doctor himself is quite old. If you can stomach having a creepy looking guy look at your legs open, then it might be okay. Other than that, it was just overall disappointing.
Wow. There are no words. I mean, I just truly hope that she sought some counseling after that experience, even if she was still comfortable, at the time with her abortion. What a horrific way to make a decision that was, I believe that every abortion is probably difficult for most people to go through with. It's gross. I don't know. There are no words.
And obviously this comment is from 2 years ago, and that just again helps us emphasize where the consequences for this. There could have been. I am not aware of any. They seem to lack proper training. The counselor tried to hurry them along, and again, it just shows us: do these things actually occur? Do these things actually occur where the people in these clinics don't have proper training, or the people in these clinics have an agenda, right? Not the agenda that the abortion lobby tries to tries to put forward, which is like, oh no, it's just like there's so many choices, abortion being one of them. This comment, at least, and maybe as we review other clinics, we'll see other comments like this, or maybe not. This does seem to sort of say like they are pushing abortion specifically over other things.
Yeah, and of course, we've known that most people who choose abortion, it's not at a free choice. And certainly in the States, there's been a lot more digging into abortion clinics by the excellent organization Live Action, who have, well, if we can go back for a second, Ben, but, who Live Action has exposed all these things about clinics in the States and all the things that they actually promote or counsel towards, underage girls who are being pimped out, clearly don't want to abort, late-term abortion. Like there's just so many areas where what is it going to take for there to be this, for the bubble to burst around abortion clinics? And I don't say that, as a joke. There are literally bubble zones in Canada around abortion clinics. But there seems to be a growing mountain of evidence that abortion clinics do not treat women properly, and they push towards a decision as opposed to, letting them make a free choice. And on top of that, people are not adequately trained. So, what is it going to take?
Right. And it's just censorship upon censorship. Like when it was the NDP government here in Alberta, that's when we saw the bubble zones come into play. There are only 2 abortion clinics in Alberta, one in Edmonton and one in Calgary. And I actually, when I was a journalist, I had the chance to interview the manager of the Kensington clinic.
Oh, interesting.
And so that was obviously, it was jarring. It wasn't super, we were talking about the bubble zones a little bit, but even the worst things that she had to say about pro-lifers were not that bad. I was like, she's like, oh, they say horrible things to women as they come into the clinic. And I was like, what do they say? And they said, oh, you're killing your baby. And it's like, well, yeah, like what are they, and then what do we see on the other side? Are they swearing at them? Are they screaming at them? Well, if they were, she didn't mention it, and obviously she would have reason to if they did. And so it's just censorship upon censorship. And
because we're not allowed to tell the truth, but you're allowed to pressure women into having an abortion when likely what needs to happen is that their crisis is solved. Like, it's just disgusting. And then operating without any proper training. And we've heard so much about this doctor over the years, and how creepy he was. And you mentioned handshaking thing. And I just can't imagine how terrifying that must have been.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if, and this whole thing, a doctor who they think is creepy, and you're being pressured to do it, and you feel like the help around you is inadequate. Like the pressure that's taking place, like that happened in the abortion clinic. It wasn't,
pro-lifers and there's a reason why women who have been raped, who go on to have abortions, who are now in the pro-life movement, say that having the abortion was like being raped again. Because everything, the way that you just described that, this creepy guy, you're being pressured, you don't know how to get out of there. That there's so many parallels to feel the feelings of like sexual assault. And it's just anything but empowering. And, I just keep coming back to, what is it going to take for Canadians to wake up to this reality, and for abortion clinics in Canada to be under serious review and closed?
And obviously we got to move on to the next one, but I would just even, people are going to watch this and say, oh, you just have an agenda for people to stay away from abortion clinics. Yeah, we do. Or you have an agenda for people to stay away from women's clinics. Well, let me stop you right there. Only if they perform abortions, and even then, only totally. So, and I would say, go to the Cabbagetown Women's Clinic. Do it. Go.
Ask them.
Ask go in there, see how you feel. But first, go into the Aid to Women building right next door and see if your feeling is any different. If you feel pressure. And
I think it's important for people, just to close that off. These are not our words. These are the words of someone who went and had an abortion. So, to quote the Me Too movement and these movements that are pushing for women's rights, should we not believe the women who have, said that they have gone and had a terrible experience? And, we talked about this earlier, there are some people who had a slightly better experience, but at the end of the day, abortion is a horrific experience. And I think that's becoming more and more evident.
Yep. And again, yeah, just like you said, these are not our words. And again, you've seen, we're not just pushing a certain type of comment. This next one is positive, 5 stars. Somebody named Tainted Mind. So that's already a little bit concerning, but the clinic is a little dated, but it's welcoming, and security and nurses make you feel safe being there. The nurse in the recovery room is an absolute angel. She is so compassionate and amazing at what she does. She made me feel so much better about the whole situation, just seeing her energy. She offered snacks and drinks after the surgical procedure. Censorship. And she's honestly a gem. All the doctors and nurses there do a fine job at making you feel comfortable and secure. Would recommend for sure. From a year ago, so about the same time frame as the last one we just read. I think it really makes you wonder, like, why the inconsistency. Clearly they had a great experience. Now, surgical procedure, that's an abortion, so I mean, it doesn't matter because murder still took place. But like, what is going on in these places that it just swings so far both ways?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, when you're dealing with unstable people, like, clearly I think we can say that the doctor who was performing abortions was seemingly not fully stable, but there could be a better day that he's having to perform abortions and then worse days, and it's just, so inconsistent. And I just wonder always about the women, the nurses who are working in these places. Certainly in the movie Unplanned, there's, all sorts of types of people who work in these places. Some are like really sure that abortion is wrong. Others are really sure that it's okay. And, at least, from Abby Johnson's retelling, there was just a constant feeling of death in the place, right? Understandably, it probably often smelled like blood. And, interesting.
And we'll go to the last one here. I believe it's a 1-star. Right here, Aisha May. That's a bit long. This place is horrible. I'm convinced the staff must have written the reviews there. The only nice person, this is from 2 years ago, is the security guard, who was a kind Indian woman. The doctor, who was an old white male, kept calling me mother rather than addressing me by something different and less insensitive, like, I don't know, my actual name perhaps. I came over a course of 3 days due to how far along I was. The doctor was so rude and insensitive and even yelled at me multiple times for saying ouch due to me being in pain. Dear God. I left in tears and ended up making the decision to go to the hospital to finish the procedure because I was not being taken care of properly. The doctor got mad at that remark, me saying I'll go to the hospital, and said I'm never welcome in that clinic again. Like, okay, I would have stayed had you treated me with respect. The doctor is so rough and unpleasant. I wouldn't recommend going here to anyone. Please just do your research and find better clinics. Call and speak to whoever you have, but avoid this one. This one made my situation more traumatizing than it was already.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Look, just to anybody watching, this is what you get when abortion exists in your culture. The only way that this type of thing cannot happen is for abortion to be totally illegal across the board. There's no middle ground whatsoever.
There's no way to regulate it to make it better, I'm sure you could have a better doctor, a more stable doctor, nurses who are actually nurses apparently, but you're taking a huge risk with women and children, right? Always the huge risk with children, and then an added risk with women, and creating a dehumanizing environment for them that, let's be honest, spills probably into many areas of society. It's not just compartmentalized to abortion clinics. Also interesting to note that her procedure took 3 days, because typically that is for later term abortions. So I'm curious as to, if she was coming close to the 3rd trimester, which in Canada is difficult to find a doctor who will do abortions, that late.
Well, that was a sobering one to end on.
Let's revisit the whole thing about mothers. What do you think the deal is with that, with this doctor? It does bring up an interesting question of, is it a medical terminology, or is it the fact that, it's just what comes out because you are, ending the life of your offspring?
Yeah, it's interesting because on a cultural level, you see that when the baby is actually born, which is fine. We're not going to make some push where it's like, oh no, you got to call them mother as soon as they're pregnant. But you are in fact a mother. You are in fact a mother because, well, and more so than ever, because the embryo, the zygote, and the fetus, as it grows, is more dependent on the mother than ever. So in a way, you're actually more a mother than at any other point in that person's life.
I mean, I think dependency and level of dependency is not what changes your level of mothering, right? Like your mom would probably still say that she's still your mom to the same degree that she was your mom.
I can ask her if you want.
Yeah,
no,
sure.
I'll do it later.
To the same degree that she was when she was pregnant with you, right? But these are their offspring. So it's just so interesting and understandably uncomfortable for the women who are having the procedures, who are trying to disassociate from that term specifically and not get attached likely at all, to have to be reminded. And I'm curious if that had any effect on anyone choosing to not go through with it, or if it was too late by that point and they're pressured. I mean, would love to know if there's more stories of women who wanted to change their mind at the last minute at that clinic and weren't allowed to.
Yeah. Well, it seems like just based on the comments that we saw, like it seems like 8 to Women is really well positioned to try to obviously do something there, because sometimes, and again, not our words, but sometimes these women go in and they are further traumatized, they're pressured. That's what we saw. And we know not everybody who had a good experience commented, but of course not everybody who had a horrible experience commented, because the fact of the matter is, you go in there, you have that experience. Well, if you're going to comment and say that, you have to relive what you went through, and what you went through across the board involved murder, and sometimes even more. And why would you want to relive that?
Yeah, and I think it's pretty safe to assume there are probably a lot more women who have gone to that clinic and had horrific experiences based on the comments and our general knowledge of the doctor who was performing abortions at the time. And I truly hope that they seek counseling and find healing. And sometimes the only way past is through it, and I hope that they do talk about their trauma at some point and are able to, confront that and heal from it. And that this clinic gets shut down.
Yeah, that would be a victory, across the board.
So for anyone watching today, I think that would be one of the takeaways, right? Like, we want to spread the word and shine a light on what's happening inside these abortion clinics in Canada. So if you've taken the time to watch today, we'd ask that you share this video with other pro-life people and get into conversation with pro-choice people. Send it to them. Ask them what they think about the treatment of women in these facilities where we're being told they're making a free choice and they're being empowered by their decision.
Yeah. And that, that goes right into kind of how we want to end this off. Obviously, we really appreciate you watching and choosing to learn more about the abortion industry. As some of you may know, we are a national pro-life organization. Of course, again, I'm in Edmonton, Ruth is in Ottawa. We work with university students to change their hearts and minds on the issue of abortion and then train them to stand up against it. We aim to systematically align an entire generation to reject abortion, which is the greatest human rights injustice of our time, killing an average of 100,000 born people a year in Canada. As a national organization, we span across Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, and we are supported entirely by the generosity of pro-life individuals who want to see youth reject abortion. Today, we want to ask that you consider joining our team, right? That's the ask, to partner with us in exposing abortion, empowering youth, and dismantling the abortion industry. So by visiting ncln.ca/donate right now, you can become part of the team. And part of the team making this happen. This would look like a monthly investment of $10, $20, $30, something like that, or a one-time investment of whatever you can give. So if you have any questions, you can contact us at info@ncln.ca. We appreciate that these are, of course, your hard-earned dollars, and we hope someday to meet you in person and say thanks if you are somebody who is on the team or decides to join the team. So that's what we have for you today. We will be continuing with sort of these episodes, and so definitely watch our social media for that. Once again, we are NCLN. I'm Ben Matichuk with Ruth Shaw. To find out more about what we do, visit ncln.ca and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. So once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.